Everyone. Welcome to Anchoring the Consciousness of Oneness World Summit. Today we have Sharon Walker with us. Sharon is a mixed media artist, writer, and speaker living in Atlanta. Her superpower is trifold. She champions you to see things differently, accept the dream purposed for you, and grow your business to live that dream. Her work is grounded in the knowledge that there is one source to which we are all connected. And our journeying here on this earth is for each of us to become aware of this truth. Sharon is multicultural, dynamic, and a serial entrepreneur with a graduate degree from Baruch College. Raised by a single mom, Sharon's fierce work ethic and passion for learning lives in her DNA. Sharon has a passion for travel, exploring, culture, and adventure. Committed to serving others, her upbringing, commitment to family, heart for service, passion for learning, and advocacy for others influenced her talents as a mixed media artist, a writer, and a speaker. Now she experiences peace, love, and joy by creating intuitive, abstract paintings, writing about her inner and outer creative journey, and sharing how to listen to your heart on her YouTube channel, The Heart Speaks. She's currently working on a book of affirmations for creatives, and she defines her success as being able to get up each day and love what you do. Live as your heart guides and share your message with everyone you come into contact with. So, thank you, Sharon, for being here with me today. I appreciate you taking the time to do this, and your art is so inspiring.
Thank you so much. It's wonderful to be here. I've been looking forward to this conversation.
Yes, same. So I know it was a journey for you to get to where you are now and actually creating art.
Yeah.
Can you share with the viewers a little bit about that journey and where you started and how you got here, actually feeling your purpose every single day and living into that every single day?
Yeah. Well, growing up, I was always doing something creative, always, whether it was latch hook rugs or sewing clothes or sketching or something. But I never got the message growing up that that was viable, that someone could actually take that and do something with it in their life. So I went to school first I went to school for physical therapy. My mom was a nurse, so it was all about making money. And the first bio lab that I realized I had to dissect a dead rat, that flew out the window. And then I went into business and basically have been on this journey of seeking and searching, and never really being able to accept that art was it. So I tried a lot of other things, but also was really on a spiritual journey. And once I was able to accept what was really in my heart to do, it took a lot, it took a lot of uncovering, digging up and unearthing that dream that, it can get buried over the years of hearing it's not possible, or it's not, not believing yourself. And, your head can tell you these lies and we believe them. And so in the unearthing, it is discovering what the untruths are, recognize them for what they are, untruth, and begin to construct a new narrative and believe that new narrative.
Yes, I mean we are ultimately responsible for that. We're not exactly responsible for the information that we absorb as children and hearing, what's valuable, what's deemed valuable, and what is not valuable, and we just take that information in without analyzing it, and that just becomes our truth. But it becomes in adulthood our responsibility to unearth the truth of what it actually is that we're here to do. And it's
Yeah.
not just about doing, right? And so that you mentioned that, the physical therapy track, that was about making money. Like, what am I going to do?
Yeah.
And that seems to define our being, you know, collectively. This is the belief. And so, how did you let go of that, the human doing, and step into the life of a human being?
Oh, that was the spiritual track. Um, on the one side of my life, got married and had children, and two of my children were born with a hereditary condition. And that got me seeking as to why us, what did I do wrong? So on the one hand, it was what was my purpose, and on the other hand, it was what's going on here? What is this all about? And they're really the same thing, but it seemed like two different things for me at the time. And so that really started the journey seeking, spiritually. And then recognizing at the time, I think one of the very first books I read was The Road Less Traveled. And one of the first sentences in there is, life is hard. And that was a big revelation for me at the time, because I thought I was the only one who had a hard life. I thought everyone else had it easy. And going on that spiritual path, there was always this voice. I was aware that there was sort of this communication. I never gave it a name. I never, but I knew it was God or Jesus, or I knew it was a being that was beyond. And I just believed it. I didn't talk to anyone about it. But anytime I was at a very, difficult place, this voice would come in and just say something. Sometimes it would be a one line that would just calm me. And I remember once my daughter was in the hospital, and it was, very turbulent. And I was at the hospital all the time. And this one afternoon I was out driving, and I was just so conflicted. And I remember hearing, "Why do you let this throw you like this?"
Mm.
And it made me stop, and say, why am I thrown like this? And, yes, my daughter was in the hospital, but as all things go, I was fortunate enough to be able to spend the time with her. My life was of such that I wasn't being tucked between a job and taking care of my family. And it really, then I recognized, oh, it's not as bad as I'm making it out to seem. It's not perfect, but in everything there is the good. And so that started the whole process of looking at, what is the good here? But then there's always this voice, and I wasn't recognizing it at the time as my connection to source, to oneness. I don't think I had that vocabulary yet, or that understanding that it was the oneness that I'm connected to, and that's where that information was coming from. But that was the beginning of it, and just the continuous search and seeking, and then meeting friends who were on the same path. And for years I studied with a group of friends A Course in Miracles, and we met once a week for like 4 or 5 years, and we just studied. And whether in conversations with God, or disappearance of the universe, and it was just one thing led to another, and I just kept taking that next step, not knowing where I was going with it, but just knowing that it was answering a need, really filling a need that I had at the time.
Yeah, yeah. And it's so, I can relate to what you're saying in that sometimes it takes a crisis before we can snap out of our conditioning,
Yes,
and and stop participating in the suffering and become the observer.
yes, absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. And that's exactly, what this was um, every so often I would find myself awake, awake to seeing myself in a situation versus being completely immersed. And I like to say that, maybe I would fall back asleep and then again I would wake up. And it continued to happen, and continues to happen. But what happens is the times of being asleep get smaller and smaller, and those times of being more awake and aware get a little longer and longer. And so then, then the understanding begins to come that, oh, I am peace already, what do I need to move out of the way for me to recognize my peace on, a more continuous basis? Oh, I am love already. Happiness already resides in me. What am I allowing to blind me to my happiness that is already within? And so then it goes from seeking happiness and joy outside to recognizing that I am already that. And what am for me to stay awake and aware to ensure that I don't take my eye off of where it really should be, which is on the inner knowing, that unknown space, and not letting the outer world distract me and confuse me and blind me to what is really true.
Yeah, yeah. And so, I tell my clients either you hurt enough that you have to change or you learn enough that you want to.
Hmm.
And either way, you can get there. The path is there, right?
Yeah.
And so, it's interesting. It's like, you talk about staying in the knowing, and or just kind of being there longer and longer periods of time. But when you pop out of that after you've been in the knowing for a long time and you go back to the forgetting place,
Hmm.
when you pop back in, you say, "Oh, I was in the forgetting place again."
Yes. Yeah.
And then there is a tendency sometimes for some people, and I know I experienced this a little bit, is to create judgment around that.
Hmm.
Gosh, I can't believe went back to the thing and I knew better. I want to be in the knowing, but then that's the forgetting place too, right? It's like the ego playing the trick.
It absolutely. I have started for myself, and I've even thought of starting a group of having like a non-judgment day,
Mm.
1 day a week, or a non-judgment week, because judgment is really what pulls us out of peace, what pulls us out of love and joy. And for me, it's right now, it's showing up most in my artwork, right? So I create something and I can judge it so harshly. I look outside of myself at what other people are creating. And then, I feel my work isn't as good as their work. And it causes such pain and suffering. And what is really true is I am an individualized expression of the oneness, right? There's no other being that is my particular expression. And so if I'm staying in the oneness and I'm allowing the creative expression to come through me, then that is my job. My job is to create how I create. And then and even there's, then you think, oh, will people like it, will people not like it? And um it's not even really about that. And I have this, just last week I had sent out a email blog with a sketch that I had done, and most people really liked it. And one person came back and thought it was, used the word, she thought it was ugly, and she didn't like it at all. And I may have been happy with it. I said I was happy with it, and she said she wasn't happy with it at all. And I was in awareness that she had met her, everything that we see in the world we're not seeing it, we're seeing ourselves projected out. And
Yes.
so, and that's the great thing about creating art or anything else. But we always have to recognize whether it's someone's reaction to ourselves or it's someone's reaction to something we create. It's always that person meeting at some place within them with the other thing, right? And
Yeah.
so, I was in awareness of, it was such a gift for me because one, I was able to have that separation from my work and to be able to recognize this is actually this person and reacting to the work. And what a gift for her that this was here for it, if she's able to accept it, that it's bringing up for her and showing to her what is within her and needs to be healed. And if I stop myself from creating something, then that whole process can't happen. I may not always know that that reaction happens. I'm not always going to know. But healing takes place in so many ways, and in so many avenues and so many places. And we're only asked to be who we are in the moment, in our peace, love, and our joy, and allow our expression. And we're always going to meet others. It's about relationship, A Course of Love. I've, studied A Course of Love, and that speaks to relationships. And we are journeying all in the same place, and we meet each other, and it's the relationships that we have that will help us grow and discover ourselves, and it's each of us need to understand ourselves and our growth and our journeying, to where we're all going the same place.
Right. Yes, this is so true. And so it's easy to see all of these perceived differences
Mhm.
of who we are and our beliefs and all the things that are so different and our individual gifts. We do have our uniqueness, right?
Yes.
But then here we are all going to the same place.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
so, with everything going on right now in the world, when we have this pandemic, we have all of this, media coverage of social injustice, lots
Yes.
of fear, lots of like high anxiety and loneliness and depression, even.
Yes.
And what would you tell those people who are experiencing this? Um, in finding that place where the knowing of the oneness that
Mhm.
we all are. Um, I know that it's really difficult, because I've been there too. It's difficult to climb out of that and
Mm.
see a new perspective or have a new awareness. Um, does your creativity, your creative pursuits, um, help you do that?
Yes, my creative pursuits. But anytime I feel stuck in a place,
Mhm.
I do something new, right? So it is, if I am inside, I go outside. If I am, with a lot of people, I switch it up. I change it up because it's in the newness, it's in the difference that we're able to, it sort of shakes us. This is how I found it sort of shakes us. And then um, that unknown knowing, the unknown, universe and God, that's the unknown. That can now come in a little easier because we're not in the same place. We're not in the same mode of operation of doing everything the same way, the same. So if you don't usually go for a hike, go for a hike. If you don't usually ride your bike, ride your bike. If you don't, whatever it is, and if you're usually we're getting an urge to do something and we're ignoring that urge. And so what I say is to listen to that urge. That's the heart speaking to you. And it's the universe, spirit, God, whatever term you want to use, it's all the same. That is the urging of the heart. So, because that's how trying to move you to that place so that it can speak to you a little easier. So you're probably already having an urge and ignoring it, you know? So I remember one time I was in a place like that feeling, and I was at home and I had this urge to ride my bike. And I'm like, oh, but I have to go and pump up the tire and I have to pull the bike out and I have to do this and I have to do that. Well, I went and did it all. And I went for this bike ride. And I had this little, those little knapsacks, the cloth knapsack on my back. And I'm riding and I'm feeling the breeze and I'm riding. And I look down and I see my shadow, and the backpack is like this super, like a Superman cape. And I just felt so alive and so free. And that's exactly what I needed to break out. It's like to crack that shell that you feel that you're in. Just that one little, and it can be something small. It doesn't have to be even a big thing. It's just stepping out of where you usually are, your usual by rote day. And some of us have it not as much as others, but whenever you can bring a little something into your day that's different, that helps tremendously.
Yes. And oftentimes it is the small things that make the biggest difference.
Yeah,
Life is so simple. We just tend to
we complicate
complicate it, right?
we
And,
overcomplicate it.
yeah, I know how you feel about your bike. I love riding my bike. I feel the freest on my bicycle than I feel anywhere else,
Yeah,
anywhere.
yeah,
And, you know, it is, I can only just be on my bike for 20 minutes or 30 minutes, and it transforms my entire day.
yes,
Yeah. It,
yeah,
it shifts the energy. And not only that, but you're talking about stepping into the unknown. So, what if you ride your bike? If you like to ride your bike, you don't let yourself do it too much. Then you decide to ride somewhere new. You
mhm,
see something different. Well, let me go this way,
yeah,
and that sparks something. And it's like like a possibility, right?
yes,
Oh, here's an idea. Out of this idea, I can imagine something else growing. And then all these possibilities start to pop up where
yeah.
there wasn't anything before.
Or
Not
seem
known.
to be nothing before, because every moment does have endless possibilities, but we have to make one step outside of where we normally stand for it to blossom, as you just said, for all these possibilities now to pop up. And and that's where the blessing is, and you can just feel this total difference. And our soul wants to feel alive, it wants to live fully. But we let everyday cares and worries and can'ts and shoulds and woulds and coulds to stop us
Yeah.
from living fully. Yeah. So
Yeah.
it's try something, just some little thing differently today. Even, write with your left hand instead of your right hand if you're a right-hander. Brush your teeth with the other hand. Um, Spin around 2 times, whatever, just do something differently. And you'll be amazed at the shift that it makes.
Yeah. Yeah. It's big shifts. Small things create big shifts
Yeah,
for sure.
yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely.
Yes.
Yeah.
So before you started painting,
Mhm.
you mentioned that you had a desire, but you wouldn't let yourself go there.
Yes, I would.
Right.
Yeah. So I tried everything. There's not a lot that I haven't tried. And so um, I tried a lot of modalities in my spiritual search. So for example, I did a past life regression, which taught me so much about this lifetime and why I came, and why the circumstances of this lifetime and what it has taught me on my soul's journey. So then I went and learned past life regression, right? And then I did past life regressions with friends for a little while, and then I realized that wasn't it. And then I did life coaching for a while, and that wasn't quite it, but everything that I've done, I've brought the portions of what I've learned that are useful in what I'm doing now, and then left the stuff that wasn't useful for me and behind. And so it has been this searching. I've had quite a few businesses that are, formal business. I had a microfinance business. I lived in Jamaica for some time, and I had a microfinance business there. And, after 3 years, it was like, how did I wind up here? And then I had to extricate myself out of that. And so it was this journey of, still thinking. I was always painting. I would go to an art class once a week, and I was creating paintings, but I didn't believe that I could do it. I didn't believe I was good at it. I didn't believe that I could. So I still had to keep, I was still searching over here all the while I was painting, and I did mosaics, and I kept that creative. Always the creative aspect was in my world,
Yeah.
but I couldn't face the fact that that's what I really wanted to do, because there was a voice inside me that said I couldn't do it. I wasn't even aware that the voice was there. And it wasn't until one day I, found myself at this talk. It was supposed to be for artists, but I'm like, well, I'm a creative, I can go. And I was listening to this artist speak about how she's made a living as an artist. And I could feel the two energies of art over here and the other energy of the seeking. And I was sitting in the audience, and I just felt the two energies move towards each other and merge in front of me. And
Wow.
that day I said, I'm going to do this. I'm going to be an artist. And that was in November. In 1 month, I had created a business, created a website, started painting. And that was my journey. That was almost 3 years ago.
Wow.
And that's when, as now, I was painting, forcing myself, because now I'm an artist, so I have to paint every day, right? And I'm painting, and that's when I start to hear, you're not good at this. What are you doing? You can't do this. And so it was when I forced myself to do it, that's when, the real resistance came up. And it has been a journey, rewriting that narrative, that's not true. That is a message that came from I don't know where in my past, and I'm still carrying with me still till today. It's not as loud as it was, it's not as strong, but it still pops up. And so it is for me to remain awake and aware to it, so it doesn't sabotage me, completely.
Yes, absolutely. I mean, if we if we listened to every voice in our head, we would do nothing. wouldn't we?
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. And so I think, it's so common. It's so common, and not, and you mentioning not knowing that you had this belief buried within you somewhere, or just
Mhm.
not being aware of it. Like it's kind of like, if this is the information that you've absorbed, and you didn't analyze it because it wasn't time for analyzing as a child, you just absorbed
Mhm.
that, then there's no like path back to that that's so easy to get to. It's not like, oh, so I'm not very good at art. This is a belief.
Mhm.
And it's not like you're thinking, oh, where did that come from? You just
Right.
take it as the truth. And so many people are dealing with this
Yes.
and not stepping into their purpose as a result.
Hmm.
And so you're saying, if you didn't stop everything that you were doing to go do just art. You kept art in your life because it was important to you.
Right.
You were following your heart's desire, and you still did the work. And then after spending time doing that, then you got the aha moment where the two fragments came together and created wholeness within you.
Yes. Yes. That's exactly what it was. Yeah. Yeah. And for the first time in my life, I have always felt, and I was just saying this to someone a few days ago, that if my life is like a train track and I'm the train, I was just slightly off the track, So this was the track and I was over here. So my life was good, I was enjoying my life, but it wasn't completely whole and full. And so now, in terms of that train is on the track, and it's still building up steam. Sometimes it slows down, sometimes it picks up. But the best feeling is being at the easel. And then, just like that old voice would pop in and say, "You're not good at this." Now there's the voice, "I love doing this." That's just there, that just springs up. And that is the joy that's already within, that's just coming up to the surface, now uninhibited by anything that I'm putting on top of it.
Right. Yes. Once you start peeling those layers, that's
Yeah.
when you find the joy and the peace and the love and all the things that we are
Yeah.
inherently, right?
Yes, exactly, exactly. And that's really an important message, because so many of us believe that it comes from outside of ourselves. So we're looking for the job or the relationship or the friendship or whatever to find, to give us the happiness.
Yeah.
And it's really, we're looking in the wrong, if we're looking for anything outside of ourselves, we're looking in the wrong place. Now, that doesn't mean that we may be in a relationship where we feel joy. The joy that we're feeling is that that person is reminding you of the joy that's already within. The person isn't giving you the joy, they're just reminding you. If you're feeling intense love with this person is reminding you that you are loved, right? It's not because everything is a projection. So if you're having love with a person, the person is helping you see the love that's already within you. And that's the important thing to recognize about what this outer world is. It's all symbols. All of it is symbols to point back to what's inside.
Yeah. What's going on within. Oh,
Yes.
I love the way that you describe that. That's so beautiful. You
Yeah.
know,
It's
it,
it, it's such a simple truth. Um,
right?
but many of us aren't aware. So it's just, the more that we can have conversations like these and we have conversations with others, um, that is what we do. It can be one-on-one conversations, it could be conversations in groups, but that's what it's about.
Yeah. And so that is very empowering, isn't it?
Yes,
To
it is.
have the understanding that you already have everything within that you seek,
Hmm.
and everything that is out here is showing you what's going on in here.
Yes. Yeah.
And then at any time you can go within and you can be with it. And that the aha moments come and you get to figure it out. And then
Hmm.
you do something about it. And you don't have to wait for somebody else to do something.
Right. Right.
Right.
Yeah, yeah. It's just like a mirror, just the same way we don't know what we look like physically unless we look in a mirror. It's the same way that we're not aware of what's going on within until something comes up and shows us. So when, if you have a negative, and I'm saying negative, because we may feel it's that way, but say, for example, you have an upsetting interaction with a person, it is showing you that that upset is within you, right? Because that thing does not have to upset you. It's upsetting you, but it doesn't have to be upsetting you. So when you have an interaction that's upsetting to you, the question is to ask, why am I so upset about this?
Yes. Yeah, that's it. Like, I mean, this in the conflict resolution world is what do I need? What is this information telling me? What do I need to know about this? And
Okay.
it's the same question.
Yes, it is.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And it's so simple, right? If you
Yeah.
ask the question, you receive the answer.
Always. Always. So be careful what you ask for because you're going to get the answer.
Right? Yes. Yeah. And then it might not be so fun, but it's okay because
That's okay. And that's the other thing is that we have to be okay with feeling uncomfortable because, all work, all healing, you come to those uncomfortable places. And so you're never going to get to the other side without going through the uncomfortable places. So what happens sometimes is you reach on the discomfort and then you stop. You don't want to feel it, right? But it's keeping you there in that uncomfortable place. There's a saying I heard, if you find yourself in hell, keep walking. Don't stay there, right? So
right.
what happens is people have this uncomfortable thing and then they're, no, they don't, and they turn away from it, but you're actually there living with it, whether you're facing it or not. So what it is to find a way to face it, to embrace it, because it's part of you. And then once you turn around and face it, it's not so scary anymore. The scariness of it can go away and you realize, oh, it's this or it's that. And no, I don't like it. It's not uncomfortable. I'm not comfortable with it, but it's going to guide you through. And anytime you feel that you're still uncomfortable or you're still in a place of not liking, you're just not done yet. You're not done yet. You haven't reached the end of that phase, because once you reach the end of that phase, you come to peace. You're at peace with it. Some things take longer than others. Some things feel much bigger, much deeper, much harder than others, but it's all the same. Whether it's something really big or it's something smaller. It's just our fear of the pain may be stronger.
Right. Yes.
Yeah,
And it's so different for every person. We've all had different experiences.
it is. It is. And that's why we can't, and this is so important, is we have to be very careful of how we allow others to speak to experiences that we're having,
Yeah.
right? Because no one is inside you. So no one can negate what you're feeling, or that no one, not only shouldn't they can't, because they don't know, right? And so we have to honor and treasure ourselves and take care of ourselves. And then the other part of it is when we hear our heart speaking to us, right? We also can't allow someone else to negate it, because that's God speaking. And God is speaking to you on the inside, from the inside. No one else is there. No one else can hear it. No one else knows the truth of it. And so we're the only ones. Each individual person is the only one that can really give voice to what it is that they're experiencing on the inside. And if they have the courage to express it on the outside. Not everyone does, and not everything needs to be expressed on the outside. That's between you and whatever it is that you're hearing, experiencing on the inside as to what you wish to do with it. But it's just important that if you have a life's dream, that you don't allow someone else to negate it or poo-poo it or whatever, because only you know.
Yeah. Yeah. And as children, we just say whatever we feel or think, right?
Mhm.
And then we get the information back from the adults of whether it's right or wrong.
Yes.
And it's so important. I just want to tell parents really right now, just from my own experiences looking back, raising a child, thinking I was doing the right thing. Um, you know, there's so many instances where we don't realize that we've squashed a dream for later on.
Mhm.
Children know things that we forgot, right?
Absolutely. Absolutely.
It's like I knew, and I said it in my own way, as a child myself, that death is destiny. I didn't say it like that. I forgot how I said it. It was like, you'll die when you're supposed to, and that's the way it is. And then of course no parent wants to hear that, because oh gosh, well that means you'll take risks,
Yes.
and there's still a chance. There's still chance, chance exists and all the things. Um, and so then that belief was sort of it wasn't erased, but it was covered up, right, for
Mhm.
many, many, many years. And then my son said the same thing to me when he was little, and then I covered that belief up just like it was covered up for me.
Yeah.
And because you don't want your children to take unnecessary risks,
Mhm.
because you want to keep them safe in the box.
Yeah.
And it took well into my 40s before I could retrieve that belief and look at it as truth again.
Yes.
Yeah. And so, for the viewers and thinking about, like, maybe the question is, what truth, what inner truth have you covered up or got covered up, and that
Mhm.
you left to kind of buried there?
Yeah. And children are our greatest gift, right? And for parents, children bring back to you that which needs to be healed, right?
Yes.
And whether you like it or not, they're bringing it to you. And the more that you can be aware as a parent, the more that you can heal for yourself and then allow your child to be free to grow into a more whole human being as much as possible. We're not perfect. We're not, and we shouldn't try to be perfect. And there's not one way to be a parent. There's not one way to do any of it. But if you feel challenged with a child, it means that there's some healing for you to do. And if you can possibly do the healing, because it will be better for both you and the child. And so that was my main thing. I have 3 children. And so I did this 3 times over. And, that phrase, kids say the darndest things. They really do say the darndest things. And this experience that I had with my children were that I was in awareness that they were very open. And so they were seeing things and hearing things that I wasn't able to. And so, my son, we lived in Jamaica at the time, and ghosts are how there's a thing in Jamaica where you wear your to ward off any spirits, you wear your shirt backwards, right? So if you went like this, you would see the tag. So he would wear his shirt backwards. So I was aware that there were things that he was seeing I couldn't really help him with, necessarily. But I think it's just to be aware that these things are real for them. And and to help them through as best we can. Again, we're human too, and we have our own experiences that will limit us in our ability to deal with some things. But it is, can you open a little bit more each day to the healing that they are showing you that you need?
Yes, I love that. And I love the idea and the truth that your children are showing you the areas in where you which you need to heal, and how appropriate for the massive healing to take place during a pandemic where all of the children are at home with their parents,
Mhm.
driving them crazy so they can heal.
Yeah, yeah. Well, this pandemic there have been so many gifts in it. Um, and, if we can actually, I did a painting that seemed to come from the whole experience. I painted it during the pandemic, and the title is Look Beyond What You See. And so there is everything that we see right on the surface of not being able to do the things that we've done, and all the changes, but then there are all the positive changes that have happened on the earth, and the reduction in pollution. And so it's come to show us things as well. And so can we look beyond uh, the you know the the things that are hard about it, to see the things that it's showing us as well?
Yeah, yeah. I mean, really, it is a practice in gratitude, and then just shifting the perspective. Because, if we're going to exist in the belief that duality is what there is here,
Mhm.
then that's what we'll get. Or we can become the observer of it and choose to see that we're always evolving. The journey's really never over. We just keep going. And sometimes it takes stress to evolve collectively, and
Mm.
it takes stress to evolve individually.
Yes, yeah.
Yeah.
It's when well, so many of us want to stay exactly the same.
Right.
We don't want things to change. We want things to be comfortable. We want it to be the same. We want to know that when we wake up tomorrow, it's going to be exactly the way it is today, because then we know how to plan. The Our lower mind are planners. We want to know things for sure. We want to know that we're safe. And I think what this pandemic is showing us is that's really a fallacy. A fallacy. Safety is really a fallacy. At any time, anything can happen at any time. Even though it seems that day in and day out, things pretty much stay the same. It actually doesn't. That's just the way that we're perceiving that it's happening. But things change all the time. That's one thing that's constant. It's always changing. And so this pandemic has come, and it's shown us in one fell swoop, everything is different,
Yeah.
right? And so how can we adapt? How well do we adapt to it all? And it's some of us. I know for me, I adapted until, oh, I'm tired of this now. I want this to be over,
Right.
and then I rein it back in, and so, and it's not affecting us all the same. And that's the other thing. We're all going through it, but it's not the same for all of us. And so how can we help those that need more assistance as well?
Yeah. 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 We're all having a different experience here.
Mhm.
And yeah. And so, because we're all connected, because we're all headed to the same place, we're going in the same direction, we're all one and
Yeah.
connected. It is important for us to consider other people's perspectives in regards to how they're handling everything that's going on in the world,
Yes.
and just be there,
Yeah.
to hear, to observe, to reflect, you know,
Yeah.
without inserting an opinion sometimes. Sometimes just listening.
Yeah.
Is it
Because
not?
the opinions can be like the judgments, right?
Yeah. Mhm.
And it's even in families. In my family, we are having discussions like these as well, because we have a police officer in the family, and so he has one perspective on the world, and all of the rest of us, coming from, even we're in the same family, but we didn't have the same experiences growing up, and we, didn't grow up all in the same place. And so it is, how can we listen to the other? And family can be a great place to do it, because these are people that you love,
Right.
right? And so how can you listen to this person that you love and you care about, and they have a completely different point of view on the world than you do, but listen and listen in love and understand their perspective, but then share yours in a way that hopefully it helps broaden their perspective, because you have allowed their perspective to broaden yours.
Yes.
And
And
if we,
ultimately,
yeah, and if we can just do that in all the spaces that we find ourselves, imagine the world that we can create.
absolutely. And then if we keep digging and we keep listening and we keep reflecting, what we notice is that we all want the same things.
We do. We do.
Yeah.
Absolutely, we do. Yeah. I remember, this story is coming to mind, so I'll just share it. I remember my son was graduating from high school, and we had rented a car, and anyway, there were a lot of us that we were moving from place to place, so it was a bigger vehicle. And on the first night, it was a long weekend. On the first evening, my daughter and my husband got in a car accident,
Oh,
and thankfully they weren't hurt. It could have been so much worse. But the vehicle was not drivable, and there were no more vehicles that weekend. And where we were staying was at least a half an hour away from where the graduation was. And when the accident happened, another family their son was graduating as well, they pulled over, they stayed, they drove them, waited the whole time with the police officer and everything,
wow.
drove them to campus. The next morning, came and picked us. It was 7 of us in total, picked us all up and took us to campus for breakfast and for graduation, waited to my son packed up all his things and took us back to the hotel. They went out of their way, 2 vehicles, to make sure that we were moved back and forth. It was an amazing show of kindness.
Mm.
And at one point, I was speaking, after they had done all of this, I was speaking to the grandfather, and I realized in what he was saying, he had a completely different political view to mine. And it was in that moment that I recognized that didn't matter. When it came down to us needing assistance, it didn't matter who we supported politically or what our point of view on the world was. It was, they were there with their human kindness and supported us through a time in need, with no asking for nothing in return. And for me, that is what we should be emulating, because nothing else matters, right?
In the grand scheme, this is all man-made stuff
Yeah.
that creates a divide and conquer, a competition, a separation. That's what this is. It's all this human
Right.
made stuff. And then we take positions like we're on a football team or something. And
Yes.
so interesting how, and you're talking about stepping out of the known and into the unknown. Well,
Mhm,
what is unknown? What is unknown beyond the political system that we know, right?
mhm.
How do other countries do it? Why do we have a two-party system? What does that mean for us?
Yeah.
What's the end game for that?
Mhm.
Um, are we willing to step out of that and make in into the unknown and create new possibilities there?
right? In new ways,
Yeah.
that it is entire, there's more than enough for everyone. And so, how do we create that? How do we create that everyone has what they need and not, a small few having so much and then there being so many who don't have enough? It's going to take moving beyond what we know to thinking in that unknown where all possibilities exist, to be able to bring that about. And I believe it's possible, and if we can work together, it is absolutely possible.
Yes, yes. But in order to get there, like I believe it too. I'm so excited. It's like to have a group of people who are like-minded and in that way, just like, yes, this is possible. Well, we've just said it. We put it out into the universe, and
Yeah,
that is, that has energy to it, and
yeah,
it's out there now. It's already out there, so it's possible. you
yes,
know yeah, and it really is about stepping into that unknown place and making decisions from a place of love and not fear.
yes,
And to make those choice, oh well, we'll just choose the lesser evil. What does that mean? Like,
mhm,
what is that about? How about just stop with the fear-based stuff and then step into something new and think, what can I do? Even
yeah,
if it's on the local level, like, what is it that I
yeah,
can contribute, right?
yeah, yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, I love talking with you. It's so fun.
Wonderful. This is so good. Thank you so much for this
Yes.
opportunity.
Yes, thank you, Sharon, and thank you so much for being here and taking the time. And please take a look at Sharon's artwork. It is so beautiful and inspiring and incredible. You can find her at SharonWalkerArt.com, and then on Facebook at SharonWalker.art. And then we have our Facebook group for the Oneness Summit. So the questions can be asked there as well. So yes, so that is that, and I just I can't tell you enough. I so enjoy speaking with you, and I hope we get to do this again soon.
Yes, it was wonderful for me. Thank you so much. This was beyond great. A wonderful experience that came up from the unknown.
Yes, the unknown.
Good.
Yes. Well, I'm sending you so much love and light and blessings to you.
And to you.
Oh, thank you so much. Until next time.
Okay. Bye-bye.
Bye.